Let's say I told you this is art. Let's say I told you this was my artwork. Would you like it? Do you think it really could be artwork? I mean, you know what it is. It's a Starbucks coffee cup. What if I told you I made this out of cardboard and crafted that lid and hand painted the logo? Would you still think it's art? Or would you tell me I'm crazy? What if I made it out of clay? What if I put the original Starbucks cup that I drank my coffee out of and put it into a 3D scanner and 3D printed it? Would that change your mind? Well, here's a group of artists that might change your mind. And you can decide for yourself whether or not my mug is art or not. We're going to be looking at pop art. We're going to try to understand what this movement was about and what these artists were trying to accomplish. We're going to take a look at some of the most enduring artists from this time. This is a Brillo box. Brillo is a product that you use to scrub pots and pans. This is something that everyone would have had in their home. You might even have some, although they've changed the logo. Pop art is an art movement from the 1950s and 60s that reflected everyday life and common objects. Pop artists blurred the line between fine art and commercial art. Pop artists did images that anybody walking down the street could recognize in a split second. All the great modern things that the abstract expressionists tried so hard not to notice at all. So this on the left is a piece by Andy Warhol, who's our main artist for our next project. And he used Coca-Cola cans, or Coca-Cola bottles, excuse me, in his artwork. And Coca-Cola is a product that almost everyone is going to recognize, even throughout the world. And that's what he wanted. He wanted you to notice his work and understand it right away and not have to think too much about what the content was about. Pop artists use everyday stuff that you could find throughout our popular culture. They used things from advertisements, products that you would buy or see at the stores, celebrities that you might see in a magazine or movie, photographs, and cartoons. This is Andy Warhol, the real genuine fake. He's an art star. He's one of the most influential artists throughout the 20th century. His lifestyle and his images and artwork reflected the rapidly changing culture of his time. So one of the goals of pop artists was to break down the barriers between real life and art. So they used objects that you might notice every day, like cans of soup or Coca-Cola bottles, things we use and consume, and they turned it into artwork, like this and like this. Or even the Mona Lisa, who's so familiar, everyone recognizes it, and Andy Warhol took her picture and printed it over and over and over using a grid pattern, which you'll notice throughout his work. Muhammad Ali, and on the left here is Jackie Kennedy, who was the first lady at the time. These are all people that are really. Or Listerine. Listerine's a commonly used object. Why can't we use it in our artwork? Other notable pop artists are Roy Lichtenstein. He used cartoons as his inspiration. So if you look, these sort of look like comic strips that you might read or find in the newspaper. He even used the style of Ben-Day dots to replicate the printing process that you would find in a newspaper. You might recognize this artist, Keith Haring. He came about in the 80s, and you might remember he also used a very cartoon-like style, but this was his original sort of look he developed. He didn't just copy cartoons and stuff that you would see in the news. This is Claes Oldenburg, who would make giant sculptures of things that we use every day. So if you look, this is whiteout, and it's a giant sculpture, and it looks like it's painting these stripes on the street, the crosswalk. Or a giant bow and arrow in a field. And it's really neat because you can walk up to them and they're just larger than life. These things like a dustpan that we use every day. This is a piece by Jeff Koons. He's a modern artist and he's still living. This giant sculpture by Jeff Koons called Balloon Dog takes something that you might find at a party, at a kid's party, and makes it giant, and instead of being fragile and poppable, it's actually huge and can last forever outside. This is one of the most expensive pieces of work that was ever sold by a living artist. So what do you think of my cup now? Do you think it can be art?